And I think we are live. Hello, everybody. This is Pitch Girl Black here, and welcome back to another live stream with HarryWilliams Productions. Do you want to say hello?
Hello, good evening.
And today we are going to be talking about the absolutely magnificent and the wonderful season 26, the final classic series of Doctor Who.
Yes, it's a very important and a very, what I consider to be a very good bookend to the classic series, in my opinion. If that's what you describe it as a bookend, which it kind of is.
I would completely agree with that, and I think it's an amazing final season for classic Doctor Who to end on. I would have said this may be surprising to some, but after having quite a big think about it recently, in terms of like what my favourite seasons are and what my favourite stories are, I would say that this is most likely my favourite series of Doctor Who, which may be surprising and may be controversial to some people, but I would have said that this is my favourite season of Doctor Who, most likely, to be honest.
Yeah, which is interesting because I know you've in recent months or maybe years perhaps.
Recent months, more recently.
Yeah, you've sort of grown to love Colin and Sylvester a bit more. I think that's mainly through Big Finish, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that is mainly through Big Finish. And I was kind of talking to Cameron or Dr. Forever earlier on Messenger about how this is now my kind of favourite season of Doctor Who. And that's kind of because what I consider the main three stories in it, Ghostlight, The Curse of Fenrir, and Survival, all kind of have horror elements to them that I really like and enjoy personally. And I'm a massive fan of horror and the paranormal in general. I would have said so. This season is right up my alley, I would have said, and I absolutely love it. Ghostlight, Curse of Fenrir, and Survival are three of my favourite Doctor Who stories of all time, I've come to realise.
What, like 1, 2, 3? Is it all like just sort of in general?
I think they are some of my favourite Doctor Who stories of all time. I think they would kind of, if I was ever to do a top 10 list again, they would kind of appear somewhere in the middle, like 5, 6, and 7, maybe. Perhaps.
Yeah, they are really, really good stories. I was talking to you earlier, but for those who obviously don't know, when I first watched Survival, because I borrowed it actually from somebody at school, I actually thought it was a bit shit, really. I was pretty disappointed by it. I wasn't sure really what I was expecting. Maybe I was expecting this really grand, epic sort of final story of the classic season, but series rather. But it just wasn't that. But watching it years later, because I haven't really seen it that many times, because I know there are people out there who consider it to be their favourite story like of all time, but I actually really enjoyed it a lot more. And I'm not really sure why that is. Maybe I don't know why. Maybe I was in a bad mood when I was watching it. Maybe, but as a season, as a whole, it's really good. I mean, personally for me, I think we'll probably talk about them in order or whatever. But
yeah,
I think the weakest story of the four is Battlefield, which even then I don't really think it's bad at all.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Battlefield isn't exactly a bad story. I find it very enjoyable, but I would only give it like a 6 out of 10 or something. And it does do a decent job of setting up the series because what I consider the main three stories out of the season all very much have mythological kind of and supernatural elements to them. And I would say that Battlefield does somewhat of a decent job of setting that up.
Yeah, Battlefield, as a season opener, it feels like if you think about it as a season opener, it's actually fairly decent. I think if
Yeah,
Ghostlight was a season opener, I think it would be, a complete hit and miss, really, for a lot of people. I know it is a hit and miss, Ghostlight, but
yeah,
especially if it opened up the last season, I think I'm sort of glad that they're in this particular order.
mm,
Um, but Battlefield, it's all right. I mean, I quite liked it when I first watched it. It took me a long time to watch it because I it was one of those stories that never really like interested me, to be honest.
yeah. Fair
Um,
enough.
but no, it's all right. I wouldn't say it's crap. I think when you said you watched it, you hated it to an
Yeah,
extent.
first time around, I thought it was kind of awful, to be honest.
Yeah, I know that the Brigadier was meant to be killed off in it, and I think that's
Oh wow, didn't
yeah,
know that, to be honest.
yeah. So I think originally they had planned to kill him off, um, and I think that's why the ending wasn't as impactful as it meant to be.
Mm,
So maybe had the Brigadier been killed off, it would have been a much more memorable story.
maybe, yeah.
Because I don't know if they had plans to bring the Brigadier back,
Mm,
in the
no.
future. Obviously, he came back in the Sarah Jane Adventures, but
Well, as I'll kind of mention this in a later section, but it seems like, in some regards, some other regards, season 26 was kind of setting up things that never really happened. Like, this wasn't intended to be the final classic season of Doctor Who, and certain elements of it feels like it was building up to the would-be season 27, as I'll get into um, a little bit later on with a particular thing that I want to bring up.
yeah, because a lot of people talk about the Cartmel master plan, and while it did seem interesting, I'm kind of glad that it never came to fruition. To be honest,
Yeah.
I'm kind of glad it sort of ended there, and then
Mhm.
we have series one.
Yeah.
So
Whenever,
TV movie and then series one.
yeah, I'm quite happy with how that went. And whenever the Timeless Children, or Timeless Child, whatever it's called, first aired, I did see a criticism flying around a while ago that it was best that the Andrew Cartmel master plan stopped where it was. Otherwise, it would encounter same problems that the Timeless Children has done, in that it explores too much of the backstory of the Doctor, and I can kind of see that in a way, because for people that don't know, this bad boy, Lungbarrow, was actually meant to be a story for in season 26. And apparently, from watching one of the documentaries on this, Andrew Cartmel and Mark Platt actually did a lot of work on the story Lungbarrow itself, apparently. But ultimately, it was considered far too expensive, but never made. And elements of Lungbarrow were actually incorporated into Ghostlight. You can actually see echoes of Lungbarrow in Ghostlight, in that there's like this massive, massive house. And another one was that the Seventh Doctor in Lungbarrow was going to be afraid of going back to his house on Gallifrey, and that was kind of swapped around in Ghostlight, with Ace being afraid of going back to the house that Ghostlight is set in because of something that happens to her in later years.
Yeah, Lungbarrow. I think this is one of the very rare instances where two people, two Doctor Who fans in the same stream have read Lungbarrow, but possibly.
Yeah, that is quite possibly correct. Yeah.
I guess we could talk about it briefly. I know you've mentioned a little bit about it, because it's probably one of them. It could quite well be the most hyped up Doctor Who book to ever get published.
Yeah, without question. Like, this is the probably the only Doctor Who book, to my knowledge, to actually get a fan reprint, because that actually
Which,
happened.
yeah, which is
It
actually
happened a couple.
the
Yeah,
one that I've got.
fair enough.
Which is it's quite nice because it's quite in a glossy sort of finish, but it's not the actual original one, which I would like to
Yeah.
get one day if I don't have to pay over 100 quid for it. But
Mm.
as much as I enjoyed it, I would say it was a bit. Um, it did seem to waffle on a bit,
Yeah.
but other than that, I'd still say it was pretty enjoyable on the whole, but
I would have
probably a bit
agreed that it was
overrated.
pretty enjoyable on the whole, but it did feel like a first draft in my opinion, and it wasn't very refined. I would have said, and very well groomed and executed, as it were. It didn't really feel like a finished work, in my opinion, which is quite weird considering that this is one of the last Virgin New Adventures published in 1997, which was almost a decade after Ghostlight in season 26. So maybe Mark Platt didn't have as long to work on Lungbarrow than we would think. But then again, that's really bizarre because if you think about it, this novel, it was pretty much 10 years in development. Lungbarrow's TV story got cancelled, elements of it got used in Ghostlight, then eventually it made itself into a novel. Like, you would think Mark Platt would have a bit more time to work on it in that time, but he didn't for some reason, by the looks of it, in my
Um,
opinion.
yeah, I mean that is kind of strange. Maybe when the original idea was first, brought to the table, maybe, and then they asked him to publish it or write it, then maybe he forgot most of the ideas, possibly,
Maybe, yeah.
which is maybe why it feels like a first draft.
Hmm. Then again, he was, I think, fairly busy as well with other Doctor Who things because he obviously did Ghostlight, but then he also wrote the novelizations of Ghostlight and Battlefield at some points in time. For example,
It's quite interesting as well because this sounds like it's going off topic, but you'll see what I mean. But basically,
yeah.
when the Series 11 was being launched, one of the American, they're like a press thing in, I guess it was either like Chicago or New York or something like that. And the American interviewer said, right, we're going to go into really geeky territory and we're going to ask, are you going to explore any of the looms?
Oh, right. That's
And
interesting.
I didn't really expect, because like half the audience, or well, most of the audience, probably in that press Q&A type thing, probably don't even know what looms are or know what Lungbarrow is. So it was quite funny to see
Yeah.
an American interview who obviously knows his stuff because
Mm.
if you've been in the Doctor Who community long enough, you will know, you'll mostly know something about Lungbarrow at least.
Yeah.
But I think this might sound a bit maybe controversial, but probably not. I kind of prefer Ghostlight because it's a more interesting perspective on Ace's character, I suppose.
Oh, yeah. Like, Ghostlight is one of my favorite Doctor Who stories of all time, as I mentioned at the start. And what you just brought up there actually does kind of siege in nicely to what I was talking about earlier in terms of like Ace's character and what have you of season 27. But I'll get back to that in a moment. Ghostlight is a really interesting Doctor Who story, I would have said. Um, I found it's an absolutely amazing kind of just visceral experience, but it just barely works as a television story, I feel.
Yeah, I know you use this sort of analogy on like like some other Doctor Who stories, but where it doesn't quite shatter like a plate.
Yeah,
There's
yeah, it
something
doesn't.
about it that just almost keeps it together. I think it's probably the visuals,
Mm,
because they are fantastic. Like the production design for that all the production values for that story are very good. I'm kind of sad we didn't get more stories like that.
Yeah.
Not in terms of the confusion, but like the design of them.
Yeah, like it just barely works as a story, in my opinion. Like there's just enough information given for you to piece together what everything is about and what have you in the story. But I will say there is a distinct lack of uh, supporting character development, I would have said, which kind of makes me want Ghostlight to be the other four-parter in the series other than Battlefield. To be honest, just to give Ghostlight a bit more time to breathe and work, I would have said.
Yeah, it's quite interesting what you said
But
there
then again,
about
the Blu-ray box,
there being a
yeah,
lack of character development. I think there's a lot of characters,
yeah,
but
true.
with very minimal character development. I mean, it feels like almost. I mean, I'm not saying it's like bad in any way, but it feels like a bloody series 11 or 12 story where there's so many characters but very little plot. But in goes like there is plot, but there's too.
Mm.
It's like there's too many characters and too much plot.
Yeah,
But in some of the
yeah,
series 11 and 12 stories, there's like too many characters and very little plot.
yeah, yeah. Like,
But I think it definitely could have benefited from maybe even 5 parts. But obviously, in the McCoys, they never went beyond 4 parts.
mm, yeah,
And in 80s Doctor Who, they didn't go beyond 4 parts, which I thought was quite interesting.
yeah. As Pertwee Smith 11 mentioned in his recent review, the next part Doctor Who story ever made, which is season 16, and this is season 26 we're on. So that's a really long time for no six-parters, as it were.
I don't know why they didn't. Maybe it was for. Maybe they thought, well, 4 parts are more. People are more likely to watch the full thing.
Yeah, that's probably
I
the
don't,
reason.
that's my guess. It would have been interesting to see, like, quite a
Want to bring
intense
up
long.
there is
Yeah.
that what I did want to bring up there is that in the Blu-ray box set, there's a special feature that I need to watch, and that is the Ghostlight extended work print, it's called, which is basically the television episodes, but it's an extended cut of them by incorporating various studio footage into the mix to make it an extended cut of the story, which I'm
Yeah, I
really
did.
interested in checking. I do quite love Ghostlight.
I think I did watch the extended edition, but I can't really tell you what differences were made.
Oh,
Just it
right,
was a
fair
while ago
enough.
since I watched it, but I think it was good. It's like
Yeah,
the Curse of Fenrir sort of movie edition,
mm,
which is actually really good.
that that's something I need to watch, and I've heard some people say that is the only way you should watch
Yeah, it is.
which fair enough.
It is. It is probably better than the original because there's a bit more like. I think they might have added a few extra hemovores and a few more soldiers, possibly, and a few
Yeah,
special effects. A bit like what they did with Day of the Daleks Special Edition, where they added like a few more shots of soldiers and Ogrons, I think, possibly.
yeah, um, yeah. I find it really interesting, kind of how a lot of these extended versions of the stories, because of like deleted footage and what have you, being incorporated into them. Like season 24 is apparently going to have extended versions of all of the episodes within the box set, which is going to be interesting to see, I would have said, even though I've only seen Dragonfire from that season.
Oh, right. Okay. I mean, season 24 is pretty bad, in my opinion. It probably is the worst season of classic Doctor Who I would have said. Maybe I'm trying to think of other seasons, but I feel like that's probably the worst one.
Good grief.
The Time in the Rani is pretty horrendous. Paradise Towers has potential, but the Kangs, you'll know about the Kangs when you watch them. They are very annoying. Dragonfire, I think I missed one of there. Delta and the Bannerman. That's actually quite a decent story, I feel.
Bannerman, yeah.
Quite an interesting sort of cyberpunk, I think, from certain elements of it. And Dragonfire is okay. I wouldn't say it was terrible, but it's alright.
Yeah.
But season 25 and 26 are just like a million miles better than that season, which is quite interesting.
Yeah. Really does kind of show the progression and development of 80s Doctor Who, I guess you could say.
I think it was actually McCoy who sort of wanted his Doctor to be a bit more dark and a bit more mysterious. So I don't know if that was a production or behind the scenes decision or McCoy's decision. Either way, I'm glad that's what we got.
Yeah, and I do think there is other Doctor Who stories out there that would benefit from these kind of like movie cut editions, as it were, like The Enemy of the World, for example. I would really think would maybe benefit quite a bit from being like a movie length cut or having an edition of that out there.
Yeah, I think possibly maybe The Edge of Destruction, maybe.
Yeah, that would be a good one. Maybe The Rescue as well, if we're going with two-parters.
Yeah, some two-part stories could benefit with maybe an extra episode or two. Although I think those stories like the Dalek invasion of Earth, that could have been cut down a few episodes at least.
Yeah.
That's going off topic a little bit, but you get
Yeah. So kind of going back to the kind of ace thing that I wanted to bring up in what I consider the three main kind of stories of season 26, because I kind of just forget about Battlefield whenever thinking about season 26, to be honest, even though it's not bad. All of the stories are all kind of really have good moments for Ace's character, I would have said, which is really interesting because in season 27, there was going to be a Doctor Who story called Doctor Ice Warrior story, and that was also going to be Ace's departure story. And it's interesting knowing that and not having season 27 and only having season 26, because it feels like those three stories are building up to something that ultimately never really happened, which I find really interesting because you've got Ace visiting the house that's kind of traumatized her in Ghostlight.
Yeah.
You've got wonderful character stuff with her and the baby, and same with Survival and her and Kara, played by Lisa Bauman.
Yeah, I think it's sort of really, I'm trying to think of another time it happened, but it's really the first sort of story arc in the classic series, I think, or the only story arc.
Yeah.
I know there's that stuff with Tegan and Namara, but I don't know if that's really a story arc.
What was that? Child of a Time Lord, or?
I suppose so, yeah, and the Black Guardian as well.
Yeah, Black Guardian. There's been kind of, actually, I would have said that classic Doctor Who has had a lot of story arcs in the past. You've kind of got, I think the earliest one, I'm trying to think here. Actually, I think the earliest one ever would actually be right at the start of Doctor Who with an unearthly destruction, because the Edge of Destruction really does kind of feed off of the character stuff built up between the Doctor, Ian, Barbara, and Susan in Unearthly Child and the Daleks, I would have said.
For a minute, I thought you called it An Unearthly Destruction.
Maybe that was stream lag.
Possibly, I think it might have been actually. But yeah, I guess the first three stories in the entire show is like a little story arc in itself, maybe.
and you kind of have the such as what the DVD range dubbed the New Beginnings box set, which is the Keeper of Traken, Legopolis, and Castrovalva.
Yeah, for some reason I thought that classic Doctor Who had very few story arcs, but if you think about it, it actually does have its fair share.
Yeah, it really kind of does, because there's the big race, there's the key to time, there's the whole exile to Earth kind of starting in the War Games and ending in season 8, I think, maybe 9, I'm not too sure. But then you've got Key to Time, as I mentioned, New Beginnings, which I think I may have also mentioned, I'm not sure. And you've also got the Black Guardian trilogy as well. And then this kind of Ace stuff in season 26, and the would be
I think
season
this is
7.
the first time that they've really attempted something like this with a companion.
Yeah.
You've got ideas that are story arcs, but you've never really had companions that revolve around like a story arc that revolves around a companion, which feels
Yeah.
it feels very like New Who and what New Who do or does
Mm.
with its companions, like very sort of like Russell T Davies kind of feel. And I guess that's
Trick, yeah.
Ace was basically the sort of kind of the inspiration for Rose, really.
Mm. And that kind of leads us on to another very interesting point here, that I really wanted to kind of bring up more in Survival, but I think it's a good time here to bring up now, as that was a good little segue. In the Writers 26 box set, whenever talking about survival, Andrew Cartmel says that that story was very much the template for modern Doctor Who, and I can actually understand and see where he's coming from a lot, particularly with series 1 of the revival, as you've kind of got very similar kind of locations and similar settings as a lot of season 1 did. So think about that, because I feel like that's a really good point of how Survival very much set the template for the revival of Doctor Who, weirdly enough.
It does have some elements rather. I think I really do like the location filming in Survival, but I think we've sort of missed talking about Curse of Fenrir a little bit.
Oh yeah, we did kind of miss
Yeah, jumper story.
Curse of Fenrir there, but we can go back to it. Do you want to go back to it now, or just continue about Survival and try and survive?
I think we can talk about Curse of Fenrir,
Yeah.
which, in my opinion, with the possible exception of either Midnight or Turn Left, probably the darkest story in the show.
Yeah, and I would have said this may be a controversial thing to loved stories of this genre, Doctor Who, particularly with the Tom Baker era. But I would actually say that the Curse of Fenrir, somewhat controversially probably, is the finest effort Doctor Who has had for gothic horror, I would have said, personally.
Yeah, I know. Doctor Who has tried to do some gothic horror, in particularly the Philip Hinchcliffe sort of era.
Yeah.
But no, I think Curse of Fenrir it's quite a complicated story, but it's still easy to follow. But there's a few complex ideas in it.
Yeah, it is quite a complex story for sure. I would have said,
It's very intricate as well, I think.
yeah, it is a very tight Doctor Who story, kind of faffing around with the Curse of Fenric. It's all very much to the point and um, does what it needs to do and just ends really. I would have said in that kind of way, if that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah, it's I really love the Hemovores. I think they are a fantastic creation. I don't know if I really want them to come back because they really benefit that story with the vampires and that. Because Doctor Who was done a few stories with vampires. I think mostly State of Decay.
Yeah,
But I do think that the Hemovores and Fenric himself is they're a very good creation, and aesthetically they look amazing. I quite like the little documentary. I think it might have been a Blue Peter or How to Make a Hemovore Mask, possibly.
oh
I think that's a
wow,
documentary,
cool.
which is quite fun to watch. But I don't know if you've seen it. They did like a new documentary for the location filming of the Curse of Fenric.
No, I haven't seen that. No.
I mean, it's all right. It's quite interesting to see how much has changed since when they filmed it in the 80s.
Mm.
Um, but no, the Curse of Fenric is definitely, in my opinion, one of the darkest Doctor Who stories ever. And I think it's essential viewing, really.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree. It's one of the best Doctor Who stories ever, and um, one of the finest Doctor Who horror stories ever. Probably is definitely the absolute best gothic horror story that Doctor Who's ever done, in my opinion, and the music to it as well as the battle scene. I would have said.
I know. I was like remembered we've actually done a review on the story. If I don't know how much more you want to talk about it, but I just say what we really. I guess we could say what we really like about it.
Yeah,
It's got some really good cliffhangers. I think the characters are in it are all pretty interesting.
yeah,
Um, and I think even though at times it is a little bit slow, it's still there's always something going on to keep your
maybe.
interest.
Yeah, yeah, it definitely does. There's a lot of various kind of interesting ideas and what have you to kind of uh, keep you interested. And it's also very unique because I don't know if this happens in any other Doctor Who stories, but because I can't remember to be honest, but it does have foreign language in it and subtitles in quite a few parts in the Curse of Fenric, which I would have said is quite, and I don't really remember any other instances of that happening.
Yeah, it's possibly the first time they've done that in the classic series.
Mm,
Because usually, obviously, in the new series, there's a TARDIS translator. So,
yeah,
with the possible exception of the Jadoon in Smith and Jones, because obviously the TARDIS isn't on the moon.
mm,
Um,
yeah,
but yeah, I think the Curse of Fenric is probably for me one of the few 80s stories that gets a 10 out of 10.
yeah. I would give it a 10 out of 10 as well, without question. It's absolutely incredible. So many fantastic ideas and concepts to it. I feel like I can get maybe a little lost sometimes if I'm not paying enough attention, but it's
Yeah.
still just absolutely phenomenal.
I will
Uh,
say that because I do feel like the Curse of Fenric is um, it's weird because I think you have to kind of like Sylvester McCoy to like this story.
In a ways, you have to, yeah, because there's a very good moment near the end which really tests the Doctor's and Ace's friendship towards the end.
I was going, yeah, that was a point I was going to make as well. It feels very sort of Virgin New Adventures, that kind of atmosphere and that.
Yeah.
Because I know the New Adventures really did go into some pretty dark territories.
Oh God, they did. Yeah.
With a few examples of, damaged goods,
Yikes.
which I finally managed to get, and I'm quite looking forward to reading that at some point.
Yeah. Good luck with reading it, though.
Yeah, it does seem very interesting, to say the least.
Mm.
I guess we could talk about them briefly. I know you touched on Lungbar a little bit.
Yeah. But another one, interesting one to kind of touch upon, kind of going back to season 27 and what have you, is set piece. Because this is actually Ace's departure story in the Virgin, which is quite interesting, just kind of note and what have you. I would have said.
Have you? I don't know if you have, but have you read The Pit?
I haven't read The Pit, no.
Well, a friend of mine doesn't really buy the version. He hasn't really bought many because he's mainly focusing on the PDAs.
Okay.
And the first V&A he bought, or I think he found in a charity shop or something, was The Pit. Which I find is quite funny.
What was Streamlag there? The Pit was the first one he got in a charity shop, or?
Yeah, the first one he found, like the first version of Adventure he bought was The Pit.
Ouch, that sounds rough.
Yeah.
Even though I haven't read it, but going by the
I think
general consensus.
it seems like the worst Virgin New Adventure.
Oh yeah, I don't know. I don't think it can be. Oh no, it isn't. But
If it's talking about mainly like Seventh Doctor stories, it sounds
yeah.
like it's the worst one.
Mm. Well, unfortunately, from what I've read, this set piece was the worst one. From what I've
you've
read. Yeah. And it's just another one of those weird moments of where I don't like a really, really popular Doctor Who book as much as some people do for some reason. Like, this is a really, really popular adventures novel, and I just don't like it at all, to be honest. I think it's absolutely terrible, but I can't really remember a lot about it.
Oh, I didn't realise you actually read it.
Yeah, I can't really remember a lot about it, but I think it basically does what the War Machines did to Dodo to Ace in this book. I think it's the best way of putting it.
So she just buggers off halfway through.
Yeah, she just like disappears.
Yeah.
Something for no like.
About as hollow as a departure as bloody. I don't know. Trying to think of it apart from Dodo.
Chameleon.
Yeah. Fair to say. Or Ian and Barbara, I guess.
Oh God, yeah, their departure. Jesus.
Yeah, quite tragic.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
no, Curse of Fenrir is the atmosphere is one of the best atmospheric stories in Doctor Who, I think, along with like the Talons of Weng Chiang, Horror of Fang Rock. Just some really great atmospheric stories.
Yeah.
So if you want to watch more of what we have to say on the Curse of Fenrir, we have done an entire stream on that story.
Which was after I watched it for the first time, so quite interesting.
Yeah, because before that, because I borrowed it off somebody from school, and I really enjoyed it then. And every time I watched it, I enjoy it more and more, to be honest.
Fair enough. It is an incredible and highly rewatchable epic of a Doctor Who story.
It is one of the best stories of all time. It's probably on my top 10, I would have said.
Yeah. The entirety of season 26, apart from Battlefield, makes up the middle of my top 10 list, I would have said.
Yeah, I think Ghostlight and Survival probably make my top 15. I don't know if they'd make the top 10. I'll have to revise the list because it's really hard to have a consistent top 10 because obviously the show is still going. And
Yeah.
often when you rewatch a story, sometimes your
For worse
opinions
in
change on it.
many people's eyes.
So the top 10 list is very hard to construct. But I'd say that Curse of Fenrir is definitely on there, on the top 10 without fail.
Yeah.
But Ghostlight and Survival, I'd say they're probably the top 20 or top 15. If I were to
all three of them.
top 20, yeah.
Mm.
That little trilogy of stories.
It is like a perfect trilogy of Doctor Who stories, in my opinion, and I just absolutely love and adore them. I would have said they're brilliant.
Yeah, there's just something about these stories that obviously they're linked together, and I think that's what makes them quite special, really.
Yeah.
And the fact that they are so good as well.
Yeah, they do link together in quite a few ways, I would have said. One, there's obviously Ace and what have you, and there's also much more kind of thematic elements, I would have said, across the whole season, including Battlefield. A lot of mythological elements in the whole kind of season. But then in trying to think here. But then in Ghostlight and Survival, there's elements of evolution, and I guess you could say the horrors of evolution. And then the Curse of Fenrir and Survival also connect together because they're very much about survival, I would have said, particularly with, actually with both of them, but the Curse of Fenrir has the World War II, I think, in the middle of it as well. So there's also that kind of element of survival as well, kind of in the Curse of Fenrir as well. So there's a lot of different kind of thematics all connecting together. Season 26, I was at.
Yeah, because Ghostlight it's a very interesting Doctor Who story. It's very Marmite without a doubt. I think. You either love it or you hate it. I think Light is a very interesting character, but it's a shame that we never really got to explore it a bit more.
Yeah, just getting stream lag here, so sorry if I interrupt you accidentally. It's just having lag spikes on my stream, and so
that's fine.
But yes, yeah, Ghostlight is brilliant. I would have said I can see how it is quite divided, but I enjoy it more for the kind of overall experience of it, as well as the kind of concepts it tries to kind of play out and try to create.
I'm quite interested.
I just find it a very kind of fascinating. I just kind of find it a really fascinating and exciting and enjoyable watch, more conceptually than actually in terms of the finished story, if it makes sense.
What, from like a visual standpoint?
from kind of a visual standpoint, as well as all of the ideas it has, like of evolution and stuff like that. And whenever I was watching the season 26, whenever I was watching the making of Ghostlight recently, Andrew Cartmel was kind of bugged, no pun intended, coming up for kind of years and what have you, about what the husks were in like the basement of the house in Ghostlight, and he finally explained it to the people that couldn't really figure it out. I mean, who could blame them? Was that they were the past lives of one of the evolving characters that was an experiment of the titular light in the story. Just trying to remember which
It's quite interesting.
character in question it was.
I'm quite tempted to have a look at Mark Campbell's book and see what he thinks, because I know in one of his editions that he actually gave Ghostlight a 0 out of 5.
Yeah, it was this character here. I'm kind of on about that one with the kind of cloak and the hair. Him.
I'm going to actually just quickly grab his guide or whatever it is and just have a quick look, see what he gives it in that one. It's one of his earlier ones. But
yeah, he gives it a recent one, I think.
So yeah, for those who are unsure what we're talking about, this is the edition I have. Hardback edition. See if I can find it. So let's see what he gives it. Oh, I just flicked to a random page and he gives New Earth a 1 out of 10.
Yeah, fair enough.
Which I can kind of understand. Let's have a look, see what it is.
He gives it a 5 out of 10 in the most recent edition, which I've currently got in my hands.
Or New Earth?
No, Ghostlight.
So he gives it a 5 in that one. Because in this one, he actually gives it a 4 out of 10.
Yeah.
And the Curse of Fenrir in this edition, he gives a 7 out of 10, which I think is correct. Well, 10 out of 10.
He gives it a 7 in this one as well.
Okay, so he seems to have a consistent opinion on that. And he gives Survivor this a 9 out of 10.
He gives it a 9 in this as well.
So he must really highly regard that story.
Yeah, I'm not too fond of his review on the Curse of Fenrir. I wish it was a bit more elaborate. Hugely atmospheric, with Nicholas Parsons giving a fine performance, but the plotting is sometimes cloudy. Like, can you give us a little more, please, Mark? What do you mean by the plotting to Curse of Fenrir is cloudy? What do you mean by that?
He means, like, metaphorically speaking, that it's sort of clouded by a lot of complexity.
Maybe, yeah. Maybe.
Because in Ghostlight, this is verdict for Ghostlight. In this, he says a powerful statement about embracing change is largely ruined by incomprehensible editing.
What did he give it?
A 4 out of 10.
Yeah, that's what he's. Yeah, he gives it a 5 out of 10 here. A powerful statement about embracing change is spoilt by incomprehensible editing.
It's the same verdict.
Mm.
Because I don't know what he says about Curse of Fenrir, but I know he's mentioned cloudy, whatever it was. He says hugely atmospheric, with Nicholas Parsons giving a fine performance, but the plotting is sometimes cloudy, same as yours.
Yeah, same as this one in here.
So yeah,
I was going to say he rips Battlefield to fucking pieces.
Oh, I don't know what he gives it in there, so I might have to have a quick look.
Snappy editing aside, this is a confused mess of a story. Cheap knights fly through the air, the music's ghastly, and a good monster stands there doing nothing. 3 out of 10.
It's the same for this book as well.
Mm.
It's quite interesting that he did quite a few publications of these.
Yeah, I really wish he would do another one because I'd be very interested in seeing what he has to say on Twice Upon a Time and the Jodie Whittaker era.
Oh, I can imagine you probably rip it to shreds.
Yeah, like 5 pages on Twice Upon a Time.
Yeah, it's just too much to fit into a couple of sentences.
Mm.
I know in one of his editions where he gives Ghostlight 0.
Oh yeah, I think I've seen that one.
Yeah, he sort of trying to think what he says. Like something about obviously he says something about the editing, but to the casual viewer is unforgivable.
Mm.
But no, for me, Ghostlight isn't a bad story at all. It is confusing, but
Yeah.
there's a lot of things to like about it at the same time.
Mm. There is definitely a lot to like about it, I would have said. And as I mentioned, I kind of enjoy it on a more visceral level, I would have said.
Yeah, it is. It is definitely a very interesting story without a doubt. I think if you're a fan of the paranormal, I think it might interest you because there are some elements of that in it with the haunted
Yeah,
house ordeal.
that's kind. I think I'm a bit biased in that regard because I just absolutely love and adore all of that kind of stuff, as you know.
Yeah, I'm very interested in the paranormal as well because I think I showed you that documentary narrated by Paul McGann about the
Oh
London
yeah, that.
Underground, which was one of the best documentaries I've ever seen.
Yeah,
For those of you who don't know, if you just type in London Underground, Ghosts of the Underground
yeah.
documentary, it's fantastic, really
It's
well put together.
it's about 46 minutes and in an interesting twist, I would like to review it on the channel at some point.
Oh, that'd be good because it definitely needs more exposure for sure
Mm,
for paranormal
it
enthusiasts.
really does, yeah.
But I think I kind of wish Doctor Who did a few more ghost stories. I know Hyde is kind of
Yeah,
like with a science fiction element to it or science fiction twist.
yeah, I really like that. I really like that episode. That's kind of one of my personal favourites from the new series, I would have said personally.
It is one that I would like to watch again because I do think Series 7 is a bit shit, in my opinion.
It's one of the few gems from that trash pile.
Yeah, that complete clusterfuck of a series. But I know
Hey,
it's
I'm Stephen Moffat. I know I wrote and created the Weeping Angels, but fuck the logic of them. I'm going to make one of them into the Statue of Liberty, or vice versa, even though it's made of fucking copper.
Oh, how
That,
could how
I'm
could the
sorry, but
gods?
that has. I know we're going off topic, but that has to be one of the most stupidest things in Doctor Who history. And it's made even worse by the fact that it's written by the same person that created the Weeping Angels.
It sounds like something Chris Chibnall would do, really.
Oh, yeah, true, actually, yeah.
um,
And the Weeping
but
Angels, I think, are returning in season or series 13, so fuck knows what's going to happen to them.
it's just a case of throwing shit at a wall and seeing what sticks.
Mm.
and hoping for the best.
Yeah.
But
Or maybe throwing potatoes at the wall, considering Sontarans are back.
yeah, or just throwing bits of copper at the wall.
Mm.
But no, I think I really like this Sylvester McCoy era. Apart from season 24, is
Mm.
as I say, it is shit. So I think
Yeah.
part of me thinks that you will probably hate it, but you never know. You might enjoy it. But
Mm. I mean,
um,
Mark Campbell, going back to him, is very positive on that season. Believe it or not.
I might have to quick check to see what he thinks of Time in the Rani.
I did an average kind of calculation of all of his ratings on Sylvester McCoy era, and going by his average ratings, his ratings on each stories, he would roughly give both 24 and 25 a 7.5 out of 10, and only 26 a 6 out of 10 or something, just kind of like building up an average rating for the season, giving his ratings on all of the stories within.
Yeah. I don't know how much different his ratings are in your edition, but in this, so he gives Time in the Rani a 7 out of 10.
Same.
I think he gives what's the other story? Paradise
Paradise
Towers
Towers.
a 9 out of 10.
Yep.
Delta on the Bannerman 8 out of 10,
Yep.
and Dragonfire 6 out of 10.
Yep.
Which
Exact same.
I'm actually quite shocked, to be honest.
Yeah.
Very shocked. Wow. That's what it seems like he rates that higher than season 26.
Yeah. As I said, I think he actually likes seasons 24 and 25 more than 26 for some reason. Which fair enough, I guess, but it's a bit
Because
surprising.
season 25 is very good, apart from Silver Nemesis, which is, apparently the writer just made it up as he went along.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't know what he rates that. But The Greatest Show in the Galaxy is fantastic, I think.
Need to watch that one again.
It's very, very, very good. Remembrance of the Daleks is fantastic.
Mm.
Even if a little bit overrated, but it's still fantastic. But yeah, I think I don't know many people who actually like season 24. Really,
Mm.
it seems like generally it's considered to be a bit crap.
Yeah. But I like it, so I'll be watching the rest of it soon whenever season 24 comes out.
The Happiness Patrol is a great story, but
Yeah, that's good.
He gives Silver Nemesis a 3 out of 10, and his verdict is probably the same as yours. The story's all over the shop, but the action scenes are terrific.
Let's see here. Yeah, he says the exact same thing, but gives the story a 5 out of 10 in this.
Oh, right, okay.
So that is a story that I would like to watch again, Silver Nemesis, to be honest, but I know it's crap.
I do quite like how he gives ratings for some of the books and the audios as well.
Yeah.
And Unbound stuff.
His ratings can be a bit shocking sometimes, like he gives Evil a 4 of the Daleks, that is.
What's that?
He gives Evil of the Daleks a 4.
Wow. It's right, because that was at a point my favourite Doctor Who story of all time for quite a few years. But I remember my last listen of it, was quite disappointed by it, really.
Mm.
It just seemed to drag a fair bit, and it's
Yeah,
a bit silly in parts.
not one of my favourite stories of all time, but I can definitely see the hype for it in some regards.
But I'm glad it's been animated.
Well, I think
Obviously,
that's just rumours at this point, but
all right.
hopefully it is gonna.
I thought it was confirmed. So I don't know what else you want to talk about because we're going on for an hour now. I'm not sure.
Yeah, we've
Was there any
kind of
other
gone
things?
on for a bit and
I don't know if there's
started
any other
hugging Mark
points.
Campbell.
Yeah, you wanted to talk about it.
Um, I will also say this. I don't really know what the general consensus on this is, but I personally think that Survival probably has the best music to any Doctor Who story ever.
Especially the ending music as well, because
Yeah, I love the alien planet music to it.
it's interesting because even though it does feel like an end, the production team just assumed that they were coming back for another season.
Yeah.
So it's very strange that it feels like a end,
Mm.
even though they all assumed that they were going to like come back for one more year, possibly.
Mm.
But
And I think the kind of iconic speech at the very end, Common Ace, we've got work to do. According to, I believe, the Writer's Room documentary and season 26 Blu-ray box set, that was written by Andrew Cartmel and I think recorded by Sylvester McCoy only a week or so before the episode was transmitted, or something like that.
no, right, because I don't think I could be wrong, but I can't seem
Mm.
to remember many classic Doctor Who stories that end with a monologue.
Yeah. The Daleks' Master Plan is probably one.
True. I can't think of many others that have.
Mm. Yeah, the interesting thing about season 26, I would have said, is that it's very much Doctor Who's kind of horror season, and a lot of people may not see that initially with Survival, but I personally interpret it as a fantastic kind of horror story about the lengths we would go to survive. I would have said personally, and it's very much built like a horror story with regards to some of the camera shots and the music as well, with kind of very eerie guitar work by Dominic Glynn, which kind of just adds a very kind of um, kind of alienating kind of atmosphere to the overall story. I would have said.
Yeah. Was that Curse of Fenrir you're talking about, all the three stories?
Survival.
Survival. Yeah,
Survival.
because I think I mentioned this to you the other day. The original working title for it was Cat Flap,
Oh yeah.
which I think Survival is a much better title. And the writer Rona Munro actually came back to write an episode for series 10
Yeah.
because they did announce that a classic writer was going to return for series 10, which I thought was quite exciting. But then it turned out to be Rona Munro, which I'm not saying she's a bad writer at all, but
Mm.
people thought I was Terrence Dick's going to return for an episode or whatever.
That would have been good.
And I can't remember anything about the Eaters of Light apart from the Doctor smacking some popcorn out of someone's hand or might have been the other way around. I'm not sure.
I don't remember that, to be honest. I don't really remember anything about the episode at all.
Yeah, and also that if I was Stephen Moffat, I probably wouldn't have brought Rona Munro just because I like survival.
Mm,
But maybe she was the only writer available, perhaps.
maybe, yeah.
But I do kind of wish that more classic writers would come back to write a new Who story, like Ben Aranovich. I don't know if he's still around, but
Yeah, pretty sure he is still around.
yeah,
And
Richard Cartmel. No, I know he didn't write, full episode, but
yeah, it would be interesting to see one of those two back. And I also do recall in the documentary that the Writers' Room documentary on the season box set that Ben Aranovich himself wasn't happy at all with, and still isn't happy at all with Battlefield.
really,
Yeah, he doesn't like Battlefield. He likes elements to it, but he just doesn't like the story on the whole, apparently.
yeah, maybe there's a lot of script changes or some whatever.
If I remember right, he let me just see here. If I remember right, he did kind of say it was kind of a case of, oh, second Doctor Who story, I can do whatever I kind of want now, and
Just writing
what
for the
have
sake
you.
of it. Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it does feel a bit like a filler story, which is weird. It's considering it's only 4 stories in the season, it does feel like filler.
Yeah. Yeah, there's other interesting. Go ahead.
Even though it does have the Brigadier in it. But yeah.
Yeah, I'm just kind of looking at my notes that I took for the Writers' Room season 26, and there's quite a few interesting things that I've noted down here whenever I was watching the documentary. Most of the writers, I think nearly all of them, maybe apart from one or something, had watched the show in the past, which is quite interesting.
What hadn't or had?
Had. So, like, all of the writers had previously watched the show in the past before their work on season 26.
Okay,
which is
so
interesting.
they didn't get any old random writer in.
No, they actually got fans of the show in, and even though this was fairly new for a lot of them, because I believe in the documentary, it also mentions that this was Mark Platt's first television. Mark Ghostlight was Mark Platt's first television bit of writing, and Survival was Runa Munro's second bit of television they had ever did. So, which is really interesting.
Right, okay. Because I know during the 80s, like when Colin Baker was the Doctor, like John Nathan Turner wanted to bring in some writers who'd never written for the program before.
Yeah.
And one of them didn't. I don't think had ever watched Doctor Who previously, which was the guy who wrote Time Lash.
Oh yeah, Glenn McCoy.
So he didn't understand what was going on, really. Which is like evident in the script of Time Lash because it is shit.
Right. Somebody in the chat says hello, and their name is literally just Doctor Who. So, hello, Doctor Who. How are you?
They've actually joined the latter part of the stream. So
yeah, interesting.
Missed the main talking points, but I can always skim back.
Yeah, and we're going around 4 or 5 viewers now, which is quite interesting and unusual for us, I think, because I don't think I've ever seen it that high on our streams.
So hello to all those 5 viewers you're watching.
Yeah, hello whoever's watching this. Hello, us interesting people ramble on about nerd things, I guess you could say. And Doctor Who says, all good, thanks. You? Yes, me and Harry are good, I would have said.
Yeah, I'm
Okay,
very well.
they have now.
You?
Okay, they've now said, I have news from the future, good news and bad news. Right, okay, Doctor Who, what kind of news do you have for us?
This is quite intense.
Alright.
Is Doctor Who going to drop a bombshell on us?
Yeah, I think Doctor Who's about to drop a bombshell on us.
Maybe they found a cure for cancer. Who knows?
The next thing they're going to say is that, like, Jodie Whittaker murdered Chris Chibnall with a dildo or something. Right, the bad news is the Daleks are close. The good news is I came to keep you safe, or should I say, we.
Well, thanks.
Right, thanks, Doctor Who. Thanks for coming.
And saving our asses.
From the Daleks, from the Khaleds.
Well, I've got a Cyberman to protect me, so don't worry.
Right, okay. In what the fuck is going on? Right, so some guy called the 11th Doctor says he means us, streamer, said that. Then the 5th Doctor said we all came. Second Doctor said all of us. Fourth, every single one of us. 10th, well, most of us. Third Doctor, don't you worry, streamer, we got this.
Well,
Right,
at least
this
my
is
favourite Doctor is there. The third Doctor, he's here.
7th, this is a Doctor invasion. 12th, we are Time Lords. 13th, the streamer is laughing at us. No, we're
Well,
not. We're just kind of amazed at this divine intervention.
the
8th, he is just happy to see us.
13th Doctor, the worst Doctor, has joined the stream.
Yeah, are you looking at the chat right now, or?
Yeah, I'm looking at the chat.
This is weird. Right, where's Christopher Eccleston? Where's the 9th Doctor?
This is
Where's
weird.
Christopher? Is he busy with the Mondasian Cybermen on Fritz Lang's Metropolis or something?
I think the 9th Doctor is probably having dinner with.
First Doctor says they are close. Okay.
This is strange.
Right. This is strange.
Is this like the plot for the 60th anniversary or something?
11th Doctor, stand back, Ewan. I can't. I've got a big, massive bit of shelving in my way.
Oh god! Why do
What
I
the
feel
fuck
like
is happening?
Like the same.
2nd Doctor, 9th. They are asking for you. 9th, over here, Doc.
Why do I feel like this is like the same person, like with the same accounts?
It is, but it probably is. But this is brilliant.
It just turned into like a multi-Doctor story.
Yeah, this turned into a multi-Doctor story, multi-Doctor stream. A Dalek, exterminate, exterminate. 9th Doctor, get them. 10th Doctor, and they arrive any time now. 11th Doctor, Doctor's attack.
This is so weird.
Keep the streamer safe.
Yeah, thank you, Third Doctor. Oh,
Do everything in your power, says the 2nd Doctor. We're at 6 viewers. This is going.
Can all you doctors tell the 10th Doctor that he's the most overrated?
You will not ruin the stream, he says. Right as you say that, the 10th Doctor.
You're very overrated, you know.
6th Doctor, what a mess. A Dalek, exterminate.
Why is like a Dalek as if it's like in third person?
How the fuck can the Dalek type? Like, how can the Dalek type? 13th Doctor, oh no, look. The Cyberman, delete you.
Oh my god.
10th Doctor, never.
You could be so much more.
Yeah, you could be so much more, Mr. 10th.
Like we're just calling them by their like number name and not like the Doctor.
Yeah.
Imagine if they did that in, like a multi-Doctor story. They just said,
Goodness, yeah.
"Oh, here comes 11th Doctor."
6th Doctor, the like button doctors, they hate it. Click it now.
I don't know what that means.
Okay. So
don't know what that means.
do the Daleks hate the YouTube like button? Is that what that is? That
Oh, wait, I
what's
think
trying
there
to be
was
said?
faster.
The doctor just says faster.
I think there was something about like YouTube possibly getting rid of the dislike button.
Right, okay.
But I'm not sure.
Second Doctor, it's working. They are leaving.
Well, I think we're probably going to be leaving soon.
Yeah, I think we're going to be leaving soon. Yeah, 5th Doctor, do your thing, doctors. Yeah, put a plaster on me, Doctor.
Yeah, do some first aiding.
Yeah, do some first aiding with your magical celery skills.
Celestial celery.
Celestial celery.
Okay, I don't
Ancestral
think
celestial celery.
Is it just the app we're using, perhaps, that has made this happen?
Maybe. I have no idea. I have no idea what the fuck's going on. Like,
I think
11th Doctor.
It's time
11th Doctor. No time now, streamer. We have work to do.
I think it's time to block the doctors, I think.
Yeah, maybe. This is 4th Doctor. This is insane. Yes, you're right. You're right, Jelly Baby Lover.
Yeah, this is I think you should probably give a blowjob to another monster.
Suck off a Wirren, 4th Doctor. Can you even do that? I suppose you could.
It probably happened in a missing adventure, so.
Doctor Who, doctors, stop driving the streamer crazy. They don't like you. So this is the most meta shit ever. The show itself, Doctor Who, doesn't like the doctors.
And a Dalek.
Sorry about that, streamer. They do it every time.
I think you need to go back in the TARDIS and leave now.
You need to fix your chameleon circuit or whatever.
Oh, can somebody ask Chameleon to join?
Somebody ask Frobisher to join.
Yeah, or Adric. Somebody get him back from the dead.
Yeah, get him back from the dead. But I think in conclusion, we can safely say that season 26 is a fantastic season of Doctor Who and is one of the best seasons of all time of Doctor Who.
Yeah, it is definitely one of the greats, and definitely essential viewing, with the exception of Battlefield. But
Battlefield's all right.
It's a bit iffy, but other than that, they got a really good run of stories in that season.
Yeah, it's really good run of stories in the season. One of the best kind of trilogies of Doctor Who stories ever, in my opinion, and 3 of my favourite stories of all time.
For me, it's one of my favourite seasons of all time, but my favourite season of all time is season 7.
That's very close, and I would say it's.
I do really like season 1 as well.
Yeah, season 1's fantastic. Yeah, I would have said that season 26 is my favourite Doctor Who season of all time. I would argue that season 7 is maybe more consistent, but I would, and all of those stories are like 8 out of 10 or above, and you've got Battlefield in this, which is like a 6. But I would place the main trilogy, as I call it, above Ambassadors and Spearhead, and maybe above Silurians and Inferno as well, but I'm not quite sure in terms of my favourites list.
I probably wouldn't go that far, but season 7 is definitely my favourite. But those stories are Curse of Fenrir is definitely in my top 10, and the other two stories are definitely in my either top 20 or top 15.
Yeah. Yeah, I just absolutely love season 26 overall, and I think I may be a bit kind of biased towards it as I love paranormal horror and stuff like that, and this really does kind of pushes all of my buttons in terms of what I like in terms of Doctor Who and media in general, I would have said, because it really kind of taps into that horror lover that I am and paranormal lover as well. So maybe I'm a bit biased in that regards, but I would have said that this is my favourite season of Doctor Who of all time.
It definitely is fantastic without question. And for those who haven't watched it, or if you're new to Doctor Who, then you're going to really enjoy this season, I think, especially if you like McCoy's Doctor, because as we said before, if you don't like McCoy, then you will not like this season, I don't think.
Yeah, and New Who fans may get an interesting bit out of this because of survival being, I guess you could say, influential for new series Doctor Who. So I guess New Who people may get a bit out of survival.
Yeah, I think there's a bit for everyone in this story. But I don't really know what else to say on it, to be honest, that we haven't already mentioned.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know if you got any other points you want to make, but
I think I've hit most of the kind of points and what have you that I kind of wanted to make and what have you in this. Just kind of to wrap up. This is this is my favorite season of Doctor Who of all time. I absolutely love it, and it's just absolutely brilliant. As I said, I kind of, when thinking about season 26, I kind of forget about Battlefield, if I'm honest. But the other three stories are just cream of the crop, and I love them.
they are fantastic. Like I said, Battlefield's a bit iffy, but
it's all right. I give it a 6
yeah,
personally.
it's not terrible.
Exactly, yeah.
But it's not good either.
No, it isn't that
I'll probably
great.
give it a 5,
Yeah.
just below average. But again, that's not to
Yeah.
say it's bad. It's just filler, in my opinion.
Right.
But yeah, I haven't really got much more to say on season 26 apart from the fact that it's a fantastic season.
I don't really have a lot more to say on it as well. And yeah, I think we've said what we needed to say. Do you think we should end the stream here?
Yep, I think before the Doctor's return.
I think they may be about to, because we're at 7 viewers currently, which is a little unnerving.
Yeah, that's a bit strange. Probably
Yeah,
our highest viewership on the stream.
Especially whenever we're talking about the Seventh Doctor.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough. But yeah, select, fair, comment, subscribe. I hope you guys enjoyed this live discussion stream on what, in my opinion, is my personal favourite season of Doctor Who of all time, the magnificent season 26 with HarryWilliams Productions.
Goodbye. Hope you enjoyed it.
And the Doctors are back.
I think, quick, let's go.
And 11th Doctor, return. We never left. Stop it, Doctors.